Ja Morant is now a Portland Trailblazer. Yeah, say that out loud so you can understand how crazy that is.
Two-time NBA All-Star Ja Morant has been traded to the Portland Trailblazers for Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray.
The 2020 Rookie of the Year, two-time All-Star, Most Improved Player. The guy who was supposed to be the face of a generation is now playing next to Damian Lillard and Deni Avdija.
And also, this Portland team cannot digress. They cannot go backwards.
But here's the crazy part. Portland didn't give up a single draft pick to get him. So the question's simple. Are the Trailblazers building the most dangerous team in the Western Conference, or is this the most reckless gamble this franchise has ever made? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one it is. But to understand why this even makes sense, you have to understand that for most of the last 4 years, this team was genuinely unwatchable. Literally nobody was talking about them. Nobody was circling them on their schedule. And they were just kinda there. Then last season, they went 42-40, made the playoffs for the first time since 2021, and did it without Damian Lillard, who was still sitting out recovering from a torn Achilles. And the guy who basically carried the whole thing was someone most of the league had completely slept on: Deni Avdija, a 25-year-old former Wizards lottery pick who went from averaging 16 points a night to becoming a first-time All-Star in a single season, while averaging 24 points, almost 7 rebounds, and almost 7 assists a game. Only 3 players in the entire NBA averaged those numbers last season, and Avdija was one of them. But then Wembanyama and the Spurs sent them home in 5 games, and it wasn't even close. At that point, it was clear that one elite creator was not enough. Portland needed a second one badly, and they just got him for practically nothing.
Grizzlies star Ja Morant has been suspended for a second time after once again appearing to flash a gun on social media.
See, 3 years ago, Morant was untouchable. The guy was casually dropping 27 points a night, looking like a top 5 player in the league, and was the most electrifying guard anybody had seen in years. Memphis was building something genuinely terrifying around him with Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, and Dillon Brooks. It was a young core that had the entire Western Conference looking over their shoulders and getting nervous about what was coming next. And then he threw it all away. It started with the gun incident on Instagram Live, which led to a 25-game suspension, and then it immediately rolled into another off-court incident right after. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, a shoulder surgery wiped out most of his season, and then his elbow gave out on him too. By the time this summer rolled around, he had played just 79 games across 3 seasons combined. Think about that for a second, because that's less than one full healthy regular season spread out over 3 years of his career. To make matters worse, in the 20 games he actually did manage to play last season, he was shooting a horrific 23.5% from the three-point line. That's a career low by a mile, and honestly, it was painful to watch. It got so bad that scouts were openly telling reporters that the man looked like he completely lost his signature burst, and that the vertical explosiveness that made him the star on the court every night might never be coming all the way back. So Memphis had already moved on long before this trade happened. Bane went to Orlando, Triple J went to Utah, and Brooks was gone. Morant was the last one standing in a city that had quietly given up on the whole thing. Which is why when Portland came calling with Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray, a 32-year-old forward on a declining contract, and an unproven wing who shot 26% from 3 his entire career, Memphis just took it. No picks, no young stars, nothing. Crazy thing is, if Portland had tried this exact same trade 2 years ago, it would have cost them 3 first-round picks and a high-potential rising star going the other way. However, now, the real question nobody's asking is whether this roster is actually built to survive a 7-game playoff series. But when you see the team Portland put together around Morant, you'll understand why the question's more complicated than it looks. Start with the reason this all works. Avdija is the engine. The guy carried this team to the playoffs without Lillard, without Holiday at full capacity, and averaged 24 points, almost 7 rebounds, and almost 7 assists a game on a contract worth less than $13 million a year. That's the best value deal in the entire NBA, and it's not even close. And now you add Morant to that. Think about what that actually means for defenses. They're already struggling to stop Avdija, and now they have to worry about Ja getting downhill too. That's a nightmare. Then Damian Lillard is finally back in town. He's the franchise's all-time leading scorer and a 9-time All-Star. But remember, he tore his Achilles in the 2025 playoffs with Milwaukee, got waived, and came right back home to Portland on a massive discount to finish what he started. He missed the entire 2025-26 season just recovering, and did not play a single minute of regular season basketball. But here's the part that nobody planned for. The man showed up at the All-Star weekend without playing an NBA game all year and still won the three-point contest. He's now tied with Larry Bird for the most three-point contest titles in basketball history, which is insane considering he's 36 years old and still doing stuff like that. How about Jrue Holiday, who's a 2-time NBA champion and a 6-time All-Defensive selection? He's still casually averaging 16 points and shooting 38% from 3 at 35 years old. Every contender in the league has been trying to find a version of Jrue Holiday for years, but Portland already has him. And don't get me started on Donovan Clingan, the 22-year-old full-time starter who averaged a double-double last season, led the entire league in offensive rebounding, and shoots nearly 40% from 3 for a center, which should be illegal. Now put it all together. The closing lineups: Morant, Lillard, Holiday, Avdija, and Clingan. 3 former All-Stars, a 2-time champion, and a 22-year-old center who's still getting better every month. That's not a young team trying to figure things out. That's a team built specifically to win in May. Oh, and by the way, Toumani Camara, who's low-key one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, isn't even starting. He's coming off the bench. That's the kind of depth contenders spent a decade trying to build. But here's the thing. There's a reason the rest of the league isn't panicking about Portland yet, and it's completely legitimate. Because for all the excitement around this roster, the case against this trade is just as real as the case for it. And if you're being honest with yourself, you have to sit with it for a second. Start with Morant himself. Sure, we already talked about him playing 79 games across 3 seasons, but what makes it genuinely concerning is not just the number, it's the trajectory. Because in the games he did play last season, he wasn't the same player. He had lost the burst that made him one of the most unguardable guards in the league when he was healthy. That explosive first step that let him get to the rim against anybody. Scouts around the league were saying it looked diminished. Not gone, but diminished. And for a guy whose entire game relies on getting downhill faster than everyone else, that's not just a minor detail. It's literally his whole foundation. Then there's the backcourt situation. Morant has never been a plus defender. Not in college, not in the pros, and not even in his best seasons. And Lillard has never been a plus defender either. So putting both of them in the same starting backcourt at this point in their careers is giving every single playoff opponent an easy blueprint. Because opposing coaches are just gonna hunt him in pick and rolls, attack him off ball screens, and force him to work defensively until their legs completely give out by the fourth quarter. And then the spacing. Portland already had the 3rd lowest three-point percentage in the entire NBA last season. They just traded away Jeremy Grant, who was hitting 39% from 3, for Ja Morant, who has shot 31% from 3 his entire career, meaning the offensive spacing on paper genuinely looks rough. But here's what everyone rushing to that conclusion is missing. Morant is 26 years old, meaning he fits this young Portland timeline perfectly. He's only 1 year older than Deni Avdija and 4 years older than Donovan Clingan. So this is not some desperate win-now move built around an aging star on the wrong side of 30. Plus, the bar for him in Portland is not even all NBA level dominance yet. They just need a healthy and motivated version of him. And on the defensive end, if there's one team in the NBA built to hide a weak defender, it's genuinely this one. Camara is one of the best perimeter stoppers in the league. Clingan's already an elite young rim protector, and Holiday is still a top-tier point-of-attack defender, even at 35 years old. They have defensive lengths and switchability at literally every other position on the floor to cover up those mistakes. So Morant does not even need to carry the offense as the primary engine anymore. He just needs to act as a secondary playmaker. He can take the late-game pressure off Avdija, force defenses to make a choice between stopping him or Lillard, and consistently get to the rim to create easy looks for everyone else. If he can do that, even at 80% of what he was, then this team becomes the matchup nobody in the Western Conference wants to see in the first round. For most of the last 3 years, Ja Morant was a cautionary tale, the guy who had everything. The contract, the highlight reel, the franchise, and watched it all slip away through his own decisions. But right now, he's a Portland Trailblazer. And once you repeat it, you realize how crazy that sounds. Not because of what it means for his career, because of what it means for the rest of the Western Conference. Lillard is back. Holiday's locked in. Avdija's hungry. Klingon is 22 and still improving. And now Morant gets one more shot at being the player everyone believed he was going to be. Portland didn't just get better this year. They became exactly what the rest of the NBA was hoping they wouldn't.